how has sales like bled into other aspects of your life? Like, is
Dude.
it talking to people or just like relationship building? I think that's a good way to just bounce off that one.
Dude, that is so great, because here's the thing that I made a mistake when I was like first starting to get in here is I only saw sales as a vehicle to improve my financial situation. What I really realized was sales bleeds into and impacts every area of life in the best possible way. So, for example, relationships, right? The key to amazing relationships is communication. And sales is one of the best way to improve your communication, whether that's in dating, improving your relationships with your parents, your family, your close friends, whether it's, wanting to get into a better social circle and meeting high net worth, high value individuals. Communication and sales directly correlates with that, right? But I think one of the most important things is also just this idea of your own internal confidence, self-talk, and mental well-being. So I'm going to walk you guys through a couple of those different things. Let's talk relationships first, because whether you're someone who's not very good at communication or you are good at communication and you want to use sales as a vehicle for relationships, one of the things that I found is the ability to actively and deeply listen, right? The biggest belief that I really had to change was I thought sales was just about talking well. Like, oh, hey, pitch this really well. Like, hey, how do I sound great when I'm talking to someone on the phone or on Zoom? That's not it. All the best salespeople are actually really great listeners. And how do we get really good at listening? It's one, asking the right questions and great questions that then lead you to then be present to what the other person has to say. So there was a core principle that I had learned when I was first starting getting in sales, which is like, get into that person's world. Get into their world. So what does that mean? Is when you ask a question, what not to do is like get stuck into your head and start thinking about how you look or how you sound or anything about you. The truth is, to be good at sales, you actually have to get into their space, get into their world, and just listen. Just be present to what is coming out. And when you're someone who is able to deeply listen, to understand what makes that person tick, what inspires that person, what motivates that person, that's where the magic really happens. Because to me, sales is like a sacred space. It's like this co-creation of discovery and transformation between you and the other person on the other line. So when I understood that principle and I was able to actually apply it to my relationships, what ended up happening was, one, people felt so much more appreciated in just the actual conversation that we were having together. But two, I was able to understand that person so much better. So one of the things that I always encourage people to have is like, practice sales like in your day-to-day conversations, right? Be in a position where you're actually asking probing and clarifying questions. Ask about that person's goals. Ask about what's going on, what's getting in that way for that person. Because those are the things that allow you, when someone opens up, to actually create trust, right? Now, from there, what I often noticed is I was just improving my communication skills overall in sales. And I was like, dude, I started to see the benefits of sales, which is, one, my circle of influence and friendships started to expand. So it was a lot easier for me to make meaningful conversations with people. And it wasn't even needing to be like, hey, I need to be best friends with that person. But when I'm at an event or I'm networking or I'm just striking up a conversation, I started to see this magnetism and attraction for people to just want to be around me, right? And I had a lot of fun doing it. I wasn't doing it because I was trying to be this certain person or I was trying to gain clout or gain followers. I just genuinely learned how to fall in love with a human experience and people, man. And I think that's the biggest thing is all top salespeople I know just love people. They love having conversations. They love being social and they love the human experience, right? And I developed better relationships with people who are close to me. But two, not only did I create new relationships, but the third one was I started getting invited and introduced to these like high value circles. So I started really being invited to, hang out in these dinners with multimillionaires of people in my space. I started to get offers to sell for some of the influencers that you guys know out there, right? I started to get referrals and get invited to these events. I started to get invited to speaking. So sales is just the stepping stone for not just career, but building relationships and expanding your inner circle. Now, the second thing that I really think about is, we're kind of talking about this, but like self-confidence and like mental health and your own inner well-being. One of the key things that I really started to see was my self-talk started to get really, really good. I'm going to be vulnerable with you guys. I was growing up, I didn't always have the best outlook towards myself, right? I had negative self-talk. I had insecurities just like any human being. And to be honest, my confidence wasn't always like authentic and genuine. My confidence was based on very superficial stuff. And so what I always invite people to think is like, when your confidence is based off reality, like a genuine skill set, like that takes you so far in life. The mental health, the well-being, the actual self-esteem, that carries everything. So when that confidence builds internally, that's when you start actually going to the gym. Like you start wanting to build confidence externally and starting to look good. I started to see myself wanting to get in the gym, wanting to look better, and not just have the confidence internally, but also start having the confidence externally, right? And I'm not doing it for anyone else besides myself, right? Because I have a good self-talk. I have a good, foundation of my identity. And most importantly, like my best friend is me. Like I want to have and talk to myself as if I was talking to some of my other best friends. So health has been a big pillar and impact when it comes to sales. And then from there, third is ways that you might not ever see it, right? I truly believe from a spiritual standpoint that I'm called to get better at sales. You guys have seen some of those stories before, or maybe we talked about it online, but sales has allowed me to, believe it or not, actually save a human being's life, right? Now, I'm not gonna go into this video because I've talked about this before, but there's things in life, whether it's the universe, God, spirituality, whatever you believe in, I believe we're all called to a gift. We all have talents. And there's times where you are called to something that you might not even ever expect or think is ever gonna happen. And there was a moment back in late 2020 that I actually had the opportunity to use the influence, to use the skill set that I've developed in sales to save a human being's life who at the time was actually suicidal. So for me, man, that is a skill set, that is a talent that I honor, because I don't take that stuff lightly, guys. Never in 10, 20 years would I ever think that my financial skill set would ever help a human being's life. And when that happened, it started to click that I was like, yeah, guys, like there's a calling here. There's something greater than myself that I really need to tap into. And so that's why I continue to hone and craft my sales skill set, because I don't know when I'm going to be called again to use my skill set of sales in a way that serves not just me, but those around me, or maybe even strangers. So I say that, guys, because I encourage you to dive into one of the most important, if not the most important skill set in business and in life, which is sales and communication. If you can tap into that, not only are you going to see your income get to a next level this year, but your relationships are going to get better. Your health and well-being is going to get better. But there's going to be moments and situations you would have never believed would have needed the skill set. So just imagine, what would have happened if I never had trained my skills, if my influence and my communication wasn't at that point to save that person's life? Like, I just invite you to consider that for a moment. I don't know if I would have been able to live with myself if I saw that happen and I had the opportunity to do it, but I didn't do the training and the hard work, the hours, the consistent grinding and honing of my craft. What would have happened if I wasn't positioned to help that person in that moment, right? So that's just something for you guys, right? Maybe it's a future loved one, maybe it's a future family member, maybe it's a friend, whoever it might be. I invite you guys that you are called to a skill set that's going to serve you so much greater than just making money. And with that, that's why I think sales is so important.